Hello, it's Dr. Ellana. So I think we're going to talk about the journey of transitioning to natural hair. And I think for a lot of people, this can be very tough, especially for African American women who have traditionally used like chemicals and relaxers to keep their hair straight, primarily living up to European beauty standards and having the confidence to wear their natural hair for so long. We were told that our natural hair was not beautiful, wasn't professional, and a lot of people can relate to that. And it had to be a certain way. You couldn't wear braids in certain settings and would bring about stress on you at work or issues at school. I don't know if you've heard about a lot of the students and kids who've been suspended for having dreadlocks or not allowed to play an athletic team sport because their hair looked a certain way, like craziness. I know I had braids for a while growing up as a kid. And if I ever heard any of that in cheerleading or any of the sports that I played, probably would be devastated. I think I was around, ninth grade when I wanted a perm, and I remember my hair was so thick and, like, it was hard to manage, at least I felt it was hard to manage, and prior to that, my mom always kept my hair in braids, and my braids were, like, my natural hair, so when they came out, it was frizzy, and I didn't know what to do with it. When I was in middle school at this time, going into high school, I said, "Mom, I want a perm." Never thought of a perm, never heard of a perm, but I know the girls who had their hair all nice and pretty had perms. So I begged my mom for a perm, and then I think by like ninth grade, he was like, okay, fine, you can have a perm. And I mean, those perms would burn. Like you would go to a salon. I know a lot of people did them at home, and they would burn your scalp sometimes, and you would have scabs and scars, and all for the sake of having straight hair. And if you didn't do that, you had to go get the hot comb, and it took forever, and then you would wet it out, and it wouldn't last. So the perms were just straight hair that lasted, basically. And I think it was around freshman year in college, the first time I tried to transition to natural hair. So I'd had a perm for about 4 years, and I just felt like that wasn't normal to have these chemicals that smelled horrible put on your hair every couple months. I just wanted to stop getting perms, honestly. And I remember freshman year of college, there were really no products on the market for natural hair, like none whatsoever. So trying to transition was a lot harder at that point. I had a lot of shedding, a lot of breakage, and of course that was devastating. You're in college and you want to look nice and you're going out on the weekends and you're hanging out with your friends and you have this social freedom that you always want to look nice when you go out. And then I was in Atlanta at the time, so, I had to stop. I was like, "Okay," I gave that a good try for a few months. Probably 6 months I tried to, like, go natural, and then I started to spread my perms out a little bit longer. So when I finally went to medical school, I was in my 1st year of medical school, I decided I was not gonna get any perms anymore for several reasons. 1, I really wanted to transition out of a perm, and then 2, it costs money, and medical students don't have any money. So, it was very important for me at this point, there were a couple products out. There was Miss Jessie's, there was what was the other one? Mixed Chicks was brand new on the market, and then there was another one. The product was called Not Today, but I don't remember, and that's KNOT, but I cannot remember the brand, but Miss Jessie's was a big one at the time, and then Carol's Daughter eventually came out. So there were some options, and they weren't all the best because Mixed Chicks was more for not for my 4C hair type, but I think what was important around that time is I had a community as well, a community of girls who were also very interested in going natural. Primarily, we didn't have the money to go get our hair done every couple months, and we just wanted to kinda try something different and get into these new products that were hitting the market. And it wasn't quite the natural hair craze yet. This was early 2000s. But we were doing it and we had each other, and I think that's where hair brings such a large community of people together. We started bonding. I'm actually still friends with all these girls to this day. We started bonding, going over each other's houses, doing each other's hair, like thinking about new styles, like twist outs. So, how often should I wash my hair? What do I do? And as you start to grow it out, you're like watching this new growth, as we call it, while half of your hair is like kinky coily and the other piece is straight, you look crazy, okay? And having to like maintain that and keep it healthy while you're doing it A lot of people would go for the big chop, but I wasn't at that point where I went for the big chop. I just literally just grew it out until every end and every straight piece was cut off. And I have pictures of my big old fro when I finally got to the point where I could like wear it fully natural. I'd even tried to straighten my hair a few times with flat irons, never good at it. So it was a lot of ponytails and pullback and all kinds of stuff and twist outs, and we weren't really doing a ton of braids at the time, but it was really being creative and bringing a group of women together around how to transition from permed hair to natural hair, which was really building this sisterhood that I don't know if I could really describe, that we kind of bonded on. It gave you a reason to go visit somebody between tests or between studying, and then gave you something to talk about. But I think the most important thing around this is like really starting to learn who you are and learn your hair. And a lot of girls always had perms since they were little kids. So you have to actually learn your hair type. So you never quite know what your hair is like because you for so long have wanted to cover that up. So you start to discover a new piece of yourself. And I think that was the other cool thing about the journey. Like you're learning a piece of you, who you are, and kind of going back into your ancestral roots a little bit. I started digging back a little bit, trying to understand, well, my hair is like this. Is my mom's hair like this? Is my dad's hair like this? And you start kind of like going down the tree of where do you get your hair from type thing. So on my mom's side, they typically had looser, coilier hair, curlier hair, actually. Um, my aunt, I remember she would only get a perm like twice a year, and she would have like this long hair, almost like Native American type hair, like that silky black hair, but it wasn't completely straight. So I definitely didn't get my hair from my mom's side. And it's kind of like when you start thinking about where did your features come from type thing. So most of my kinky 4C hair came from my dad's side, which is kind of interesting, just kind of learning that history. So really also we had to do a lot of experimenting as well. So you're learning about yourself, you're learning about your hair, you're learning about to style your new hair. And I say new because it's actually the hair you're born with, but it's new to you because you've gone through this process for so long. But you're really embracing this whole journey of going from like what you once embraced as beauty to another aesthetic that you are now upholding in a society that may or may not deem it beautiful. So embracing that whole journey and walking in that confidence is really what that process of going natural is. And I think that's one reason why a lot of people fear it because they don't know what's underneath there, what's going to grow out of the hair, how they're going to manage it, how people are going to judge them. So we would find a new product that may have come out on the market and we'd share that information like, hey, I found this new product at Target or at Walmart or wherever. You got to try it. So at some point, you kind of become a product junkie until you find the right product or right product combos. Eventually, you learn what works for your hair. And then you build this routine that ultimately allows you to get to that point where you're confident and comfortable with your own hair. And really having that support around this whole process was super key for me. Like, you literally are looking like James Brown unless you figure that out, and that's honestly, that's not a good look. You look crazy. That support, that community, understanding that routine, embracing the process, learning and understanding who you are is the beautiful part of going through that journey from chemical to natural hair. So once you settle on a routine, and what I find even as you age, which is so funny because your hair changes as you age. And I think when I first went natural, I had my routine down. Like you would wash your hair, you needed X amount of time. If you knew you were going to this event or that thing, or you were rushing off the class, you knew what styles and how much time you had when you need to wash it. So you're planning. It's not like other hair types where you just wash your hair in the morning, blow dry it, and go. Takes quite a bit of planning, especially if you have a lot of thicker, kinkier hair that requires more time and manipulation. So I think early on, I had a really great routine. As I age, your hormones change, your stress levels change, your diet change, your body changes, and also your hair changes. So it's almost like you're constantly relearning your hair every couple of years. At some points, I would straighten my hair a little bit more, and I actually had a lot of damage in the front of my hair. So therefore, I couldn't wear certain styles anymore because the front wouldn't curl. So about maybe 3 years ago now, I actually shaved all my hair off. So I shaved it all off and it's been growing back now, and I've had to relearn my hair again. And at every stage, even of that regrowth, it was a big chop to go natural. It was a big chop for me to just start over and just rediscover my hair. And then as it grew back, the hairdo was more consistent with this textures because I had noticed that it was super kinky in the back and then literally just straight in the front. Like it would do nothing. And I would have to learn to like kind of braid the front down and like let the rest of it curl out. But now with my new hair, I'm learning new process. And I say new hair, but it's like now that my hair has grown back, it feels like it's different texture. It's thick, but I don't think it's as thick. I'm also older. So I'm learning a new routine and new process. And as I actually was transitioning from like that buzz cut that I had 3 years ago to like the longer hair now, I did wear a lot of braids. So I had to like that transition point to having like this very short hair to this part where you can't do anything with it at all because you can't even braid it down is a little challenging. So even in that process, I feel like I'm relearning my hair and learning the process and like what looks are really quick to go out with. I'm also learning that now that there's so many new products on the market, trying to find the right products to hold curls. The Safo curl cream will be out very soon, so hopefully I'll be using that more consistently with my curls. Like I figured out the products, the shampoo products, but now trying to figure out the styling products for Safo is going to be our next venture so that I can have a product in my arsenal that I can go to and be part of my new routine. So speaking of that journey from the permed hair to the natural hair, a lot of that goes back to even childhood and the products that we had access to when I was a kid. Was a lot of greasing, a lot of grease that we used. We used grease on the scalp, and it was like that bonding moment when you brought a comb and a ball of grease to like some woman in your family to scratch your hair. And I know that sounds crazy because I don't know if people really do that much anymore, but like Sunday nights or the weekends or after a long day, you'll say, "Can you scratch my scalp?" And that was like the ultimate sign of love, right? So you get down on the ground in between somebody's legs, you would sit there maybe on a cushion or on the floor, and they would take a comb, maybe a fine tooth comb, and just scratch the scalps. And oh my God, felt amazing. And they would just put that grease down the line, and your hair just felt like your scalp honestly felt like a new person. You felt light, you felt airy, you felt refreshed, honestly, but that grease was no joke. That was straight petroleum and probably the most unhealthiest thing ever, but it felt good, I promise you. A lot of grease, and then there was also, like, this beeswax stuff that we would use to press your hair out with, and I mean, that stuff smelled like you were cooking something on a stove, so we used a lot of beeswax, and I don't remember using a ton of products on my hair as a kid. As I got older, middle school, starting to do my own hair, keeping it moisturized. And this goes back to like how your hair changes. So my hair as a child was very different by the time I got to middle school. Your hormones again, you start becoming a teenager. A child's hair is very different than a teenager's hair to like middle school, teenage years. So there was then the pink lotion, pink pink oil moisturizer or the pink lotion. I can't remember. Everybody uses everybody in the oil sheen where you sprayed it in everybody's arsenal. And then the black gel when you want to do like the updos and you want to do a slick back or the bangs. Like the bangs were a thing. And I used to like cut my own bangs. Me and my friend, we would cut our own bangs and put the pink roller in the front. And then me and my sister would play. It was either pink or yellow. We would have the rollers, the soft sponge rollers, but there weren't a ton of products for us to use back then. We had the shampoo, the Tail and Mane was a big one back then. Mane and Tail, whatever it was called. It had the horse on it. So that's how you knew what to go get. And then B&B products like the Bronner Brother product were typically the stuff that we would use. And these were all things you would like Walmart, Sally's. And we didn't have all these product options back then. And we weren't also so concerned about how the hair felt particularly. And I think our diet might have been different, stress levels, so things were very, very, very different back then, but just thinking as a child, those moments and growing up with, like, grease and the pink lotions and the Sheen Sheen hairsprays when you got finished burning the curls out of your hair, you just sprayed it on there and kept going. And there were also like the spritz holders that made your hair hard and crunchy so it didn't move. So these are like all things I recall using, and probably all of it super toxic and unhealthy. But it had you looking fly when you went out for the night and your hair did not move. So yeah, and a lot of that is what inspired me to kind of start Safo hair as well, because my uncle would make a grease that we use all the time. And as my hair started going through changes a few years back, I tapped into some of his knowledge on how he even made the grease because it kept my scalp so healthy and my hair growing so much. It really inspired how I started to develop my Safo product and specifically my scalp serum. So we don't typically use grease anymore, but we use a lot of serums, and a lot of that's the same ingredients minus the petroleum. It really gives me that same effect when my mom would grease my scalp at night, putting that serum on my hair. Putting this on my scalp gives it that refreshing feeling just like it did when I was getting my scalp grease as a kid. So it really inspired how I even developed my products and how I wanted people to feel and wanted them to think about the product as well.